Alrighty, video number 4 on the 49 Chevy pickup. Video 1, if you haven't seen, is cab mounts, placement, welding, and fitting the cab. Video 2 is the bed. 3 was the clip, front clip, and 4 will cover the running boards and front and rear bumper mounts. And I guess that'll wrap up the body. After that, we'll jump into the air ride, if poor Chris ever gets his parts. Yeah, that's been a hassle for him. Unfortunately, it's been a hassle. So I kind of got these directions kind of deciphered on the running board mounting. I kind of wondered how close the running boards were to the cab when I hung the driver's side, because it's kind of clamped on there still. But it's 1 inch from the bottom of the rocker to the top of the running board, or you can close the gap some if you like, is what it says. But I feel like the fenders kind of designate between the fenders and that little rolling apron deal to the bed. I'd say that pretty much sets the tone for where the running boards go. You do, however, have specific locations to put these things on the chassis frame rail. The way it says, you have a front and rear. They're front and rear specific. These will go on the driver's side. However, they are not side specific, but they are in a specific order. So the short leg goes toward the cab mount. It'll go like that. And the rear one will face to the back toward the cab mount. And in between these mounts is from the back side of the front mount to the front side of the back mount, you see it under there, is 29 inches, and center to center should yield 31 inches. So cab mounts are critical because they set where these things go on the frame rail. So I'm going to get these things squared up. Probably going to put the truck on jack stands in the back so it's not looking like it's got the rocket ship out of here, and plus that'll kind of help me visualize the running boards and all that. But probably won't be a long video unless it's a disaster. Hopefully it's not. But let me get this truck on jack stands and get this stuff situated, and I'll show you what I got. Alright, a little update here. I actually had this passenger side running board fully welded, mounted last night. Kind of got carried away and forgot the video actually, so I was going to save the other side, the driver's side, for the mounting how-to, and then come back to this side and show you the finished product. But before I closed up, I didn't really like how it was sitting. I focused more on the fender, front fender to running board gap, than I did the rear fender to running board gap. And the best I can tell in pictures, it's a lot less noticeable if you fudge the front fender gap to the running board than the rear, because this just looked funny, and then you had like a 1 inch gap, you know, kind of like where you had to fudge it right there. So, and actually I've meant to, where Chris cut these mounts off, I meant to come in here and slick this anyway. And then, so I just went ahead and cut everything back off. I got a little boo-boo right there in the frame I need to weld up. I don't know if you can see that, a gouge. Couldn't get in there. But I'm gonna clean all that up. I'm actually go in here and weld these marks up and then slick it again. And then I'm gonna move the running board back. So I'm gonna find me a spacer to clamp between the running board and the fender on the running board and the front fender, and then focus more on getting this back fender to running board gap closed up. It's going to add to that little rolled pan filler thing. It's going to add gap here, but it's going to look better here and be much less noticeable there. So I just got this stuff cut off. I didn't really want to cut it off, and I was going to fudge it in another way. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't. My idea was, and honestly, I guess I could have showed you this before I cut it off. This is the rear, clearly says rear. And this is supposed to line up in the bottom of the running board. And those little, there's 3, but we only got 2 mounting areas, or 2 mounting legs or whatever in the kit. I don't know. Yeah, this wasn't jiving, these holes and the mount holes in that. I'm gonna get this stuff mocked back up, and we're gonna scooch this board back, and I'll show you where we're at when I get it all hung back on there and clamped on. So, alrighty. All right, I got this thing back on here. It's mocked up. I closed the gap up at the back. I added a gap to the front. It is definitely not as noticeable. So you see how that's nice and where it's supposed to be, and that little rusty witness mark is exactly where it was in the beginning. You got a little more cab gap here, and obviously there. We discussed that. I've seen where they make fillers. People has made a filler. Shouldn't be a big deal. It's up to Chris on that. I've also seen where they slid the, how'd they do it? They took 2 sets of running boards and they cut this, extended that, extended the running board, filled the gap in all areas. So, as you can see, got this gap here. I mean, best I can tell, it's kind of tough to see the radius and all that, but it looks pretty close for the most part. So I got the actual braces vice gripped on. I had jack stands under it, and then this 2x4s, and all that was setting my height. We'll go under here. You see your outriggers or whatever you want to call them. Now this is kind of weird because these are hanging off the frame below the bottom of the frame. So I think what I'll do is I'll tack it here, and there's enough room to weld on top here, but I'll do that with the running board off the truck. And then I think I'll take a Ziz wheel and I'll just slice this flush, and then have something to weld onto, so it's not really hanging down. I don't guess it would matter, I just don't like it. So back here fits a little different. Got them clamped on. I got this guy clamped, this little panel, filler, whatever. It's clamped to the bed, and then I set my rear running board height with those vice grips between the running board lip and the cab lip. And to kind of set my in and out depth, these screws actually just hold this pinch together for this filler rubber, and I just kind of eyeballed it along that to make sure my in and out was fine. Now there's supposed to be 29 inches from the face of this mount to the rear of this mount. I have not checked that, but we can check it right quick. Let's see what we got. 29, pretty much on the money. Let's see, I got it right there. 31 center to center is what it's supposed to be. I'm not really concerned about checking that. So I'm happy with this. I'm just gonna tack it. And I kind of bent them up when I knocked them off, so I'll tack it down here, and then I'll take a hammer and knock this flat. And probably the same with this one. Well, you know, it's different, but anyway, I'll knock that one flat. We'll get this one on this side stuck on there, and I'll pull the running boards back off. Now we still have to mount the running boards to these outriggers. As you can see, these slots do not, actually this one's nowhere near it. So I don't know if maybe this was missing something or what the deal is, but neither one of those slots are lined up with the existing little I guess a carriage bolt or something went in there, kind of like clipped in. Well, I was pretty beat up, but anywho's, yeah, those slots are nowhere near where they're supposed to be. And this does say rear, and that one does say front. But as you can see, this one does fairly decent. I think that this hole right in front of my finger over here in this radius, that's where it's supposed to be, because this one is at the very back, or I don't know, you can see how it is. The slots don't really line up, and this is adjusted all the way out. So these have in and out adjustment. I am all the way out on this one. Not real sure what is up with that, but we'll make the most of it. Not 100% sure how I'm going to attach the running boards to those little outrigger pieces. We've seen them where they drill straight through and use a carriage bolt in the top, because this is part of a brace, but it does have a carriage bolt in the top. You could probably flat black the head, kind of camo it a little bit. It would be nice to be able to make a piece of flat stock to slide down in there with 2/4 20 tapped holes and bolt it from the bottom, but yet again, might be overkill. I'm gonna get this welded on there and get back to you. All right, I got these glued on here around 3 corners. I may go back and weld those holes in. I don't know. I'm glad I didn't the first time, because I cut them off. But yeah, and then I trimmed this bottom and went in there, welded that up. But they're on there pretty good, and the running board fits for fairly well. Well, let me grab the running board. We don't have to worry about bolting them up next. The back will come up just a tad, something like that. So but you get what I'm doing. So let me jump on this other side and get it mounted all up, and we'll do it all over again.
Competition Products, your source for hardcore engine parts for street, strip, and oval track. Our free catalog is packed with hundreds of product lines from the best-known manufacturers in the performance industry. Lowest prices guaranteed. Free shipping and handling on all orders over $149 in the continental U.S. Need expert advice? Our knowledgeable staff is just a phone call away. Competition Products, race parts sold by racers since 1970.
All right, back from the old lunch break here. Got this frame cleaned up. I've welded in a few gouges here and there. Got that one cleaned up. Kind of looks like I need to hit it again, don't it? Looks a little shaded. But maybe it looks all right. So, a small tip here. I think if I did another one, I would cut me some sleeves at work and put inside there and just do a through bolt. But the 4 bolts keep it from crushing, so it kind of makes sense. But it is not a fun thing to try to assemble. A lot of moving doodads and washers and all. But what I would suggest is put these in first and slide it all the way to the end so they're close. Put your nuts and washers on, and then slide it back so you can get these in, because it's a whole different ball game trying to come in from this way. So if you just slide it, if that back bolt there to the left, if that back bolt there to the left wasn't in there, then that bolt on the right would slide all the way to the end of that slot, and you could reach down in there a little bit better. But so this one will go somewhere around in here. We'll pull the tape from that one over there, from somewhere up here, and then of course this one will be somewhere in this region. So hang the running board first, and really the running board designates where these things is going to go. Like once you push it to the fender, which this one might be a little more tricky because there's a little bit, just a tad missing there. Just this, if you got to look close, but a little bit of missing. So I'm gonna let the fender judge it, and then as far as my distance back, and then also use this, because there's a little rusty witness mark right there. So line that up and then use this strip right here for my in and out, and then we'll clamp it here and here, and then we'll put a jack stand right here. And then once that's on there where I want it, then we'll put the outriggers on, line those up, clamp those to the running board, and then where they land is where they land, as long as it's pretty close to that over there. And I mean, you can check that 29, you know, that 29 inches in between if you want, whatever. But yep, that's where we're at. So let me get some stuff clamped on here. All right, I got the running board hanging here. I feel like I got my gap pretty well between the rocker and the top of the running board. It's roughly an inch and 1/8, something like that, best I can tell. Everything seems to, all the rusty witness marks, this fits up nice and tight. Gap looks about the same. The bed is not exactly square, so that was messing with me just a tad. The only thing I got funky going on here, let me show you. Alright, I'm pretty well lined up like I did with the other side. You got those screws that hold that little channel for that rubber strip, so kind of eyeballed it. It looks like I could probably bump out just a tad on the front, but here's my question. To get that gap up there, I had to drop this bracket about a 1/4 inch, maybe an 1/8 more on this side than I did that side. So that kind of bothers me. So what I'll probably do is just tack it in the corners, not weld it, and then come back here and tack this one, do the same. I'm roughly 29 inches between this face and this face, so we're kind of set there. This looks roughly the same as that side over there. Parts aren't square, so it's really kind of tricky to get this square with the frame rail, and then these legs look all wonky. But I don't really like that because it's so different. So like I said, I'm just going to tack it. I'm going to take the running board off, and then I don't know, maybe I'll get smarter before I fully weld it and have to cut it off again. But that's where I'm at. Let me get this tacked, and hopefully I can figure out why it's like that. Maybe it's just going to have to be like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking everything. I don't know. We'll figure it out. All right, I ain't sure what the difference was, but everything I've checked as far as body spacing and fender gap, it all looks the same. So I don't know. It's welded on there though. So we got this one welded. Got that one welded on. Still have to drill the through holes here and here. And then probably might be a good idea to connect this somehow or another. But it fits pretty good. This doesn't fit just like the other side, which is kind of weird. This might be bent, I ain't sure. But it looks pretty okay to me. Could probably bump it forward just a touch right here. But got the old bed gap this side. And this side. So, alrighty. Now let's move on to, we'll do the front bumper since it's on this end and most of all my junk's on this end. So let me get cleaned up and break out these bumper instructions, kind of get an idea of what I'm supposed to do, and we'll hang a bumper. All right, got these frame mounts on. You'll know if you done cut the frame right. Trust me, I figured that out just now. And it is very fun trying to get this nut on this bolt on the steering box side because if you look up in there, there's a brace in there, right there, and then that nut is way back in there, right there. So what I had to do was I had to electrical tape it inside these needle nose and then run the needle nose through there like so. And I gotta drill one more hole here, and it's bolted in the bottom right here. This frame, this horn, I did not cut enough back, so this bolt hole didn't line up and this bolt hole didn't line up. So this is an existing hole, this is an existing hole, same way with this side, but you do have to drill the third hole. So I'm gonna get the flat pieces out and get those put together, and then we'll stick them on there, see how it looks. And then Chris brought brand new chrome bumpers, which we'll immediately take right back off. So, but we'll get those mounted and figured out where they need to sit. And gotta tighten the steering box back up, because that might be important. Yeah, so far, you'll know if you don't cut the frame far enough back. So. All right, got the bumper kind of mocked up here. There was 4 brackets, 4 inners, 4 outers. Clearly the truck has 2 bumpers. I thought it would be 2 inners for the back, 2 inners for the front, 2 outers, 2 outers. See what I'm saying? Well, we ended up taking a wild ass guess here and putting the brackets together, because there was no flat mounting area on the front, on the outside of the bracket. So this is what we got. The bumpers hung loosely. This is what was pretty confusing, was this setup. Now you'll see that the hole is right there. The bumper mount or bracket is here, and this one was pretty close, but I also had to bend it. You can see the swoop in it. Now this side, just taking a guess, you can see it didn't bend at the weld. You can see it's got a radius in it right there where I just kind of bent it out and matched it up. So, and then I guess when you tighten that bumper bolt up, that should straighten out as well as that one. So I guess you're supposed to bend these to the bumper hole. Also, it's suggested running it in the middle hole. So there's 4 holes. I don't know how you find the middle hole in a 4 hole, but the bad thing is we can't run the next hole down because it's slapped in the way of the frame. This hole may be too low because there's a pan that's optional or whatever. It kind of covers this up. So you want to find something to cover these bumper brackets up, because that's not really, to me, it's not really something you want to look at, because it looks like that. So I guess, assuming, bend this out, slide these out, put the bolt in. But that does not look good. It needs some sort of filler. So we may have to drop down to that very bottom hole right there. Let me see it. So I'm gonna get this bolted up, and I guess message the guy and ask him about the rear bumper, because there's no brackets. I mean, it has some frame brackets. This is what we have. It says rear bumper frame side times 2. They fit in the channel. Then you have these. They say rear bumper middle times 2. But I don't know how you connect to this. Chris sold the original chassis, and I believe it had the bumpers on it, so I don't know if you're supposed to use the original bumper mounts or what, because that's where I thought maybe 4 of those of the 8 that we used in the front would go to the back, because they mount kind of similar. So, but try to get it figured out, and I'll let you know how it goes. Alrighty, we had the bumper on. Pretty sure I showed you. Went to Dave's Truck Parts up in, I think it's Maiden, North Carolina. I've talked about it before this morning, and Chris got the it's called the splash pan or something. So I didn't get it on video, but it does fit for the most part. I may have to notch. There's a lip on this back side, kind of like that. May have to notch that to get it to sit down there right where everything's not in a total wicked bind. The rear bumper, that has been a disaster. I don't know really about a disaster, but okay. So hope I can do this and video. Okay, so this is bolted together like so. This is supposed to sit inside the rail. So this would be like a, it'll box it. It'll be similar to boxing the rear rails. So this side does the same. Yeah. So, and then this takes factory bumper brackets. So unfortunately Chris sold that chassis and the bumper brackets were on it. Well, he contacted the guy that bought it from him. There's a local guy here, buys and sells stuff. He'd already sold it to another junkyard here in town, and a guy from South Carolina bought it Monday. So that thing's gone. And that guy was actually taking a 47 to 55 off of an S10 chassis and putting it on a stock chassis. So to each their own, I suppose, right? So back to the bumper. I'm gonna try to do this without scratching this fresh bumper here. We'll lay it in the floor. All right. So factory bumper brackets. Between the mounts here and here is so just shy of 46 inches. Well, I happen to have, I've not shared this on the channel, last weekend I bought a 53 pickup. I couldn't let it go to scrap, so I bought it, and it's actually kind of come in handy for situations like this. So 46 inches, well, close to 46 inches on those bumper mounts. The outside on that 56, geez Lord, these bumper mounts are the same, 47 to 55 first series. So 46 inches, we'll just say 46 inches inside to inside. Outside to outside on that 53 truck, the rails are 46 inches, so that'll fit. So here's where we have a problem. Outside to outside on the S10 is right at 40 inches. Well, you can see that well, these are designed to mount on the inside of the rails. We are a mile off. So what we could do, we've actually talked to the guy. Chris had him on speaker and I talked to him too. So I don't know if this is something new. He was saying that guys were saying that the new bumpers and the new mounts were wider than the frames. Well, this is a new bumper with new mounts. It's clearly not wider than the frames, because that truck up there is 46 inches, and if it wasn't 97 degrees, I'd walk up there and I'd show you. Matter of fact, let's just go. Don't laugh at my hillbilly car covers. They were free and they will outlast me, so I use bed liners, cover stuff up. So this is my new piece of crap. Frame's a little mangled, but you can see 46, maybe an 8, something like that. So clearly it'll fit a clearly it'll fit a stock truck chassis. So RussD Parts is supposed to be cutting new mounts for the rear bumper that will go on the outside. Probably what I could do is the pieces of frame rail that I cut off, I could probably just weld them to the outside, make up the difference, put the bumper on. I am not a fan of how that's going to look. It looks real half-assed. I feel like it's what it's going to look like. And you know, I could probably use these and do it as well. And we did some measuring and it's real close. But so basically that's what we'll end up with to get the spacing. Well, I'm gonna have a couple of days before those pieces get here, and I'm going to try to come up with a better idea or a cleaner look, or put something on the mill at work, maybe some aluminum like a block spacer. I don't know. There's got to be something better than it. Just looks terrible. You may never see it, nobody ever see it. I don't like it in the least, but you know, where we're at's where we're at. So got the running boards. They're not mounted yet, but they're on there. We can I mean, they're pretty solid. Everything's good there. Got a few other goodies here that really pertain to this. I'm not even sure where he took them, but I got some firewall filler plates. So we'll do those in a separate video. Those go, they fill right here, over there, and then that rectangle at the top. But that's where we're at on this one. Kind of, well, we're stuck until we get this back resolved, and I guess I'll come back with another video on that, and I'll do a follow-up, and we'll discuss this whole kit. But thanks for watching Left 4 Dead Garage. Gotta get in here and get this video edited, get it up. We'll see you on the next one.